Ladies and gentlemen, you were never born to remain the same. The Creator of all things never intended for anything He made to live in a state of stagnancy. Even the trees grow upward, stretching toward light. Even rivers move forward, seeking out oceans. So why should you be content with staying where you are when everything divine in you was designed to expand, to evolve, and to excel? You were never designed to stay the same. Life itself is the expression of movement, progression, and evolution. Stagnation is a distortion of the original intent of your existence. When God created man, He did not breathe into him a finished product. He breathed into him potential. And potential is always proof that something is unfinished. It is a whisper from the Creator that says, I placed more in you than what you are currently expressing. Everything in creation declares a consistent message: grow, expand, stretch, and increase. Look at nature. The seed is not complete in the soil, it must become a tree. The tree is not complete in the forest, it must bear fruit. The fruit is not complete in its ripeness, it must carry more seeds, and the cycle of expansion continues. Why then do you, as the crown of creation, think you have the right to remain the same? Staying the same is an insult to the gift of life. It is a betrayal to the breath that was placed in your lungs. You were not made to simply exist. You were made to express the nature and character of divine growth. Every level of your life is supposed to graduate into something higher. Every phase should evolve into greater clarity, deeper purpose, and stronger identity. But none of that happens automatically. You must decide to refuse the stagnation that many have accepted as normal. You must rise and say, I will not remain in the same mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial condition another year. Because if you don't outgrow the weak you will unconsciously defend your dysfunction and baptize your laziness as contentment. There is a deception that whispers, God accepts me just the way I am. And while it is true that love reaches you where you are, it is never content to leave you there. The love of God is not just redemptive, it is transformative. The grace of God does not only cover weakness, it empowers strength. If you truly understand who your source is, you will never be comfortable staying where you are. You will feel a divine agitation every time you settle. You will sense a spiritual unrest every time you try to shrink to fit environments that can no longer handle your calling. You must pay attention to that discomfort. It is not anxiety. It is not fear. It is destiny knocking, saying, this is too small for you now. When you ignore the voice of growth, you silence the voice of your future. The weak version of you thrives on familiarity. It loves routines that require no sacrifice. It feeds on patterns that are predictable, even if they are unproductive. But the strong version of you is waiting in a space of uncertainty, a realm that demands courage, effort, and discipline. You cannot access that stronger you unless you are willing to outgrow your current self. And outgrowing yourself is not easy. It is violent. It is uncomfortable. It is painful. But it is necessary. You were born to be more than a survivor. You were born to be a steward of potential. Potential is the silent evidence of capacity. It is proof that you are capable of doing more, being more, achieving more, becoming more. But potential does not manifest because of age, time, or desire. It is unlocked through intentional growth. You cannot keep waking up hoping you will change. Hope is not a strategy. You must take responsibility for becoming what you were born to be. And the first step is to stop lying to yourself about who you are and where you are. The weak you tells lies to protect itself. It says, you're doing fine. It says, at least you're not like them. It says, maybe next year. But every lie you tell yourself becomes a brick in the wall that traps you in the old you. Staying the same is a decision. And that decision has a cost. It costs you opportunities. It costs you relationships. It costs you time. It costs you legacy. The person you are right now is not qualified to live in the future you dream about. You must grow into that person. The life you want is locked in a version of you that has not yet been revealed. And it will never be revealed until you make the radical choice to outgrow the current you. That means challenging your habits, confronting your beliefs, correcting your speech, disciplining your desires, and elevating your thoughts. Change begins when you stop negotiating with your past and start cooperating with your future. There is no version of success that includes staying the same. There is no manifestation of greatness without transformation. You cannot pray for elevation while rejecting development. You cannot demand results when you resist responsibility. The strong you is forged in the furnace of consistent choices, hidden sacrifices, and daily commitments. No one sees it at first. No one celebrates it at first. But eventually, the evidence of growth will silence the critics and awaken the doubters. The results will speak louder than the excuses ever did. When a seed begins to grow, it first breaks. It breaks the shell that once protected it. It breaks through the soil that once covered it. It breaks into the light that once seemed unreachable. Likewise, you must break past the layers of limitation you have used to protect your comfort. Growth is a breaking before it is a building. It is a surrender before it is a success. That is why so many remain the same. They are unwilling to go through the breaking process that comes with growth. But if you are serious about outgrowing the weak you must embrace that process. You must choose the pain of discipline over the regret of remaining the same. To stay the same is to silently declare, "This is all I can ever be." But that is a lie. You were designed with more. There is power in your words, vision in your mind, purpose in your breath, destiny in your bones. But none of it matters if you bury it beneath fear, laziness, or self-doubt. Your Creator did not make a mistake when He gave you life. But you can make a mistake by wasting it. You cannot afford to repeat another year with the same excuses, same weaknesses, same mindset, and same outcomes. Something must break. Something must change. You must force yourself to rise above who you've been and embrace the process of becoming who you are meant to be. Weakness is not a condition. It is a choice. The world may have told you otherwise. Your experiences might have lied to you and said, "You were born with limitations," or "You're just not that strong," or "You'll never overcome this." But the truth remains. Weakness only stays when you decide to let it. Every moment of your life, you are presented with two roads, the road of convenience or the road of commitment. The weak you always takes the easy road. It looks for the path of least resistance. It searches for reasons, excuses, validation, and pity. But what it refuses to admit is that it is choosing to stay weak because it does not want to pay the price of strength. The moment you begin to justify your condition, you empower it. What you defend, you strengthen. When you excuse your lack of discipline, you give it more territory in your life. When you say, "This is just how I am," you are not describing your nature. You are confessing your unwillingness to grow. Weakness becomes your identity when you repeat that confession long enough. And sadly, some have worn their weakness like a badge of honor. They boast about their struggles, highlight their fears, showcase their doubts, and expect applause for surviving instead of changing. But survival is not transformation. Surviving is not the same as overcoming. To overcome, you must choose a different path. The path where weakness is no longer your companion but your enemy. There is a part of you that knows this. That silent, frustrated, yearning part of you that whispers, "I was made for more than this." That's the voice of your real self trying to break free from the cage you've built out of comfort. That's your divine nature pushing against the walls of your excuses. And until you stop calling weakness your personality, your story, or your identity, you will never experience the power of true change. Weakness is not who you are. It is who you've tolerated. It is who you've permitted to stay too long. But the moment you decide to evict it, the moment you rise and say, "No more," you begin the journey of transformation. Choosing strength is never accidental. You will never drift into greatness. You don't stumble into excellence. You don't casually develop discipline. These are choices. Intentional, focused, painful choices. The weak you avoids those choices because it's easier to hide behind stories than to write a new one. It's easier to quote your background than to break new ground. But hear this truth. Your past is not the author of your future. Your decisions are. And every time you choose to tolerate what's holding you back, you are co-signing your own limitation. Many people are not weak because life made them that way. They are weak because they keep choosing responses that produce weakness. They choose laziness instead of structure. They choose fear instead of faith. They choose to react instead of to lead. And every choice adds up. Life does not lie. The results you see are reflections of the choices you've made repeatedly. You can pray all day, fast all week, shout and dance, but if your choices don't change, your condition won't either. Because your results are loyal to your decisions, not your emotions. It's easier to blame the devil. It's easier to blame circumstances. It's easier to blame parents, partners, society, and systems. But real power starts the day you stop blaming and start taking responsibility. Weakness thrives where blame lives. It's fed by blame. It's protected by blame. As long as you can find something or someone to point to as the reason you haven't changed, you will never force yourself to change. But when you finally say, "This is on me," you reclaim the authority that was always yours. Authority over your thoughts, authority over your actions, authority over your outcomes. That is the birthplace of strength. What you allow becomes your culture, and culture becomes your character. Some people have created a culture of weakness in their thoughts, in their words, in their relationships, in their daily patterns. And now it feels normal. It feels natural. But just because something feels natural doesn't mean it's healthy. You've got to reprogram your nature. You've got to detox your mind from the habits that have made weakness feel like home. You've got to interrupt the patterns that have produced comfort instead of strength. Because if you don't, you will pass that weakness on like an inheritance. Your children will imitate it. Your team will reflect it. Your community will mirror it. And soon, weakness won't just be your struggle, it will be your legacy. But you can change that right now with a decision. The decision to confront everything in you that is inconsistent with your divine identity. Weakness is not your inheritance. Power is, clarity is, discipline is, boldness is, vision is. All of that is your original nature. But you must choose it. You must choose it when it's hard. You must choose it when you don't feel like it. You must choose it when no one else supports you. You must choose it even when you're tired, misunderstood, and isolated. Because real strength is not always loud. It is sometimes the quiet decision to keep showing up with integrity when no one else is watching. If weakness is a choice, then strength is also a choice. And strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of resolve. The strong are not those who never feel like giving up. They are those who decide not to. They are the ones who build systems, not just hopes. They structure their days around what they value. They train their mind to think beyond impulse. They invest in wisdom, not just emotion. And that strength, that inner power, that unshakable resolve, it begins to grow, day by day, choice by choice, until one day the weak version of you no longer recognizes you. Because you've outgrown it, you've surpassed it, you've buried it beneath the weight of consistent obedience. You are not weak. You are simply at the crossroads where strength must be chosen repeatedly until it becomes your nature. And every time you want to give in, every time you want to shrink back, remind yourself, this weakness will not have the final word. Not because you feel strong, but because you decided to become strong. Not because the journey is easy, but because the destination is worth it. Not because you are perfect, but because you refuse to stay the same. Comfort zones are coffins decorated with excuses. They are the most well-disguised prisons in the human experience. They do not come with locks, but they hold people captive. They do not come with guards, but they are heavily protected by fear, familiarity, and routine. And the most dangerous part is that you don't even realize you're trapped. You think you're safe, but you're stuck. You think you're surviving, but you're settling. You think you're choosing peace, but you've actually surrendered to mediocrity. The comfort zone convinces you that because nothing is going wrong, something must be going right. But the truth is, nothing going wrong is not the same as everything going forward. In the comfort zone, there is no demand for growth. There is no challenge to your belief system. There is no pressure to rise higher. Everything remains the same. You move in predictable patterns, speak recycled phrases, live by inherited assumptions, and walk in circles around your own potential. You repeat yesterday and call it wisdom. You manage habits and call it discipline. You bury desire and call it maturity. But deep inside, your purpose begins to suffocate. Because purpose cannot breathe where there is no movement. Vision cannot grow where there is no stretch. Greatness cannot be born where there is no pain. And the comfort zone avoids all three. Excuses are the furniture of the comfort zone. They make it livable. They decorate it with reasons why you're not changing. You begin to dress up your delay with fancy logic. You call it timing, but it's fear. You call it patience, but it's procrastination. You call it peace, but it's passivity. And because you've never been forced to stretch beyond what you're used to, you start calling your cage a castle. But no matter how beautiful the decor, a coffin is still a coffin. It may feel safe, but it will bury everything you were meant to become. The comfort zone is not just a condition. It is a deception. It gives you enough comfort to keep you numb, but not enough truth to make you free. Inside the comfort zone, dreams die quietly, ideas fade silently, ambitions shrink without noise. And the tragedy is, most people won't even realize they were dying until it's too late. They confuse activity with progress. They stay busy but not productive. They surround themselves with people who never challenge them, so their illusions remain intact. And day by day, they lose the fire that once stirred in them. The dangerous thing about comfort is that it feels good. It soothes you, it justifies you, it even attracts others to join you. But nothing alive stays the same for long. The moment you stop stretching, you start shrinking. The moment you stop growing, you start decaying. There is no neutral ground in destiny. You are either advancing or retreating. The comfort zone trains you to settle. It teaches you to shrink your vision to match your surroundings. It tells you that aiming higher is risky, that trying again is dangerous, that believing for more is unrealistic. And if you stay there long enough, you start modifying your dreams to fit your doubts. You stop asking, what is possible, and start asking, what is safe? But safety has never birthed greatness. Safety has never built empires. Safety has never transformed lives. Safety keeps you surviving, but purpose demands you to live. You were never designed to play it safe. You were built to break barriers, not build borders around your own life. You were shaped to conquer fears, not cuddle them. You were formed to lead movements, not maintain routines. Every major breakthrough in history came from someone who stepped beyond what was familiar. They walked into territory they had never been before. They confronted fear face to face. They left the crowd. They said no to comfort. And it cost them. It cost them their sleep, their friends, their reputation, sometimes even their security. But what they gained could never be purchased by those who stayed behind. There is a cost to staying in the comfort zone. You may not see the bill today, but the invoice always comes. It shows up in regret. It shows up in lost time. It shows up in unfulfilled dreams. And it's always more expensive than the price of courage. The comfort zone does not just affect your goals. It affects your identity. You begin to think small, act small, talk small. You begin to associate with people who reinforce your smallness. You start disliking those who make you feel uncomfortable, not because they're wrong, but because they remind you of the version of yourself you've abandoned. You avoid pressure because pressure demands performance. You avoid truth because truth demands transformation. You avoid growth because growth demands grief. The grief of leaving behind the version of you that feels known but no longer serves your destiny. You cannot evolve while staying comfortable. The two are enemies. You must choose one. You must be willing to be uncomfortable with stretching, or you will end up uncomfortable with stagnation. One pain leads to progress. The other leads to prison, but they both require a decision. If you want to rise, you must exit the familiar. If you want to expand, you must renounce the excuses that have caged your potential. If you want to grow, you must confront the truth that comfort is not your friend. It is your greatest enemy disguised as peace. The comfort zone is where average lives. It's where potential goes to sleep. It's where people wait for permission they'll never get, and where they bury assignments they never completed. It's where you hear the echo of one day until your days are gone. But if you want to be exceptional, you must declare war on comfort. You must get up before it feels right. You must act before the conditions are perfect. You must move before the crowd approves. Because destiny does not wait for your comfort. It waits for your courage. And the longer you wait to leave the comfort zone, the more power it gains over your mind. Every time you feel discomfort, it's a signal, not to retreat, but to lean in. Growth starts where comfort ends. Your future is hidden behind the thing you fear to do most. And when you finally confront it, you'll realize the power you needed was never in the comfort. It was in the courage to leave it. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another prophecy. You don't need another motivational video. What you need is action. What you need is a made-up mind. What you need is to burn the bridge behind you so going back is no longer an option. The comfort zone may offer you calm, but it robs you of calling. It may offer you quiet, but it kills your hunger. It may offer you stability, but it costs you significance. You were not designed to live a life of quiet desperation. You were not born to decorate the grave of your own dreams with words like, maybe, someday, or if only. You were created to move, to rise, to lead, to shift atmospheres, to disturb the norm, and to reveal the power of becoming more than you were yesterday. The comfort zone can no longer be your home. You must evict it from your mind, your habits, your language, and your environment, because your future is too important to die in a place that was never designed to contain your destiny. The future you is waiting for a stronger version of you, not a more informed version, not a more entertained version, not even a more inspired version. The future that has been prepared for you, the one filled with open doors, divine opportunities, purpose-filled assignments, and global impact, is waiting on the you that is stronger in mind, bolder in faith, sharper in focus, and deeper in discipline. You cannot bring your current level of maturity into the next dimension of responsibility. The future does not respond to wishes, it responds to readiness. And the truth is, most people are not waiting on God. God is waiting on them to evolve into the version of themselves that can handle what they're asking for. There is a gap between where you are and where you are called to be. And that gap is not filled with time, it is filled with transformation. It is filled with decisions, with growth, with development, with confrontation, with discipline. And that is where most people stop. Not because the dream is too big, but because the current version of them is too small. You must understand this. The life you dream of, the one you believe for, the one you visualize, affirm, and write down, it already exists. But it exists in a realm that does not recognize weakness as a passport. You cannot enter your future dragging the limitations of your past. You cannot step into tomorrow carrying the excuses of yesterday. Something must be upgraded within you before access is granted outside of you. You were created with the capacity to grow beyond your current condition. Nothing about you was designed to be static. Your mind, your body, your habits, your faith, all of it is meant to expand. But it will not expand on its own. You have to engage it. You have to put pressure on your potential. You have to provoke growth by applying consistent force against comfort, against old thinking, against laziness, against fear. The stronger you is not going to arrive by chance. It must be summoned by choice. You must make the kind of decisions that hurt now but heal later. You must sacrifice the version of you that is afraid to disappoint others, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to be misunderstood, because that version of you is blocking the emergence of the one that was born to lead. The stronger version of you does not avoid hard conversations. It initiates them. It does not shrink when resistance shows up. It stands firm because it was forged in moments of testing, of failure, of isolation, of pressure. That version of you is not intimidated by responsibility. It is attracted to it. It carries weight with grace. It moves with intention. It makes no room for mediocrity. But that version of you is not automatic. You must build it day by day, thought by thought, habit by habit, decision by decision. The future is not some magical destination. It is a reflection of the person you are becoming. And becoming is a process that demands the death of who you used to be. Most people fail to walk into their future because they are emotionally attached to a past version of themselves. They are in love with who they were and frustrated with where they are, but unwilling to become who they need to be. They romanticize old seasons while fantasizing about future ones. And in the middle, they waste their now. The now is where strength is formed. The now is where the future is constructed. The now is where the work must be done. And that work is uncomfortable. It is inconvenient. It is lonely. But it is also where the stronger you is developed. The version of you that can carry your calling with excellence is born in the crucible of consistency. The future version of you is not attracted to feelings. It is connected to character. Your future won't open up to someone who simply desires it. It will yield to someone who has been prepared for it. And preparation is not glamorous. It is hidden. It is private. It is quiet. It happens behind closed doors. It is what you do when no one is clapping, when no one is validating, when no one is watching. But it is in those silent hours of preparation that strength begins to rise. It is in those early mornings, those late nights, those internal battles, those private victories that you begin to qualify for what you've been praying for. You don't become strong by avoiding pressure. You become strong by learning how to handle it. You don't become strong by escaping responsibility. You become strong by accepting it and growing under its weight. You don't become strong by wishing for an easier life. You become strong by rising to the level of your challenges. And here is the reality. Your future will test your strength. It will test your consistency. It will test your integrity. It will test your habits. If you are not stronger when you arrive, what was meant to bless you can end up breaking you. What was designed to elevate you can crush you if you haven't built the internal foundation to sustain it. There are doors you have not walked through yet, not because they are locked, but because you haven't grown tall enough to reach the handle. There are opportunities waiting for your character to catch up. There are relationships, platforms, assignments, and moments in time that are reserved for a version of you that has not yet emerged. And you must understand that delay is not denial. It is preparation. It is grace giving you time to build muscle before you carry weight. But grace does not override your choices. You still have to decide to become strong. You still have to confront your weaknesses not with shame, but with responsibility. You still have to rise above the voices that say, stay the same, take it slow, don't do too much, you're fine just as you are. You're not fine just as you are. You are loved as you are, but not complete. You are accepted where you are, but not yet equipped for where you're going. And if you truly honor the calling that rests on your life, you will do whatever it takes to become the person that calling requires. The stronger you is not an ideal. It is not a theory. It is a mandate. It is the version of you that wakes up earlier, speaks more clearly, walks more humbly, disciplines itself more deeply, and sacrifices more consistently. It is the you that can be trusted with more. The you that doesn't need applause to keep going. The you that doesn't fold under pressure. The you that is built, not just inspired. You must be willing to leave behind the habits that comfort you but do not grow you. You must be willing to sever ties with relationships that affirm the weak you but would sabotage the strong you. You must stop trying to carry old attitudes into new seasons. They don't fit there. The stronger you cannot breathe in the atmosphere of complacency. It suffocates in environments where purpose is watered down and greatness is optional. The stronger you thrives in discipline, in focus, in prayer, in intentionality. It doesn't just survive the fire. It is forged by it. You must force yourself to meet that you. You must train your thoughts to align with that version. You must make decisions today that honor the future you. Because the future is not waiting on a miracle. It is waiting on you to become strong enough to carry it. Excuses keep you employed by the past. They are the invisible contracts you sign every time you choose justification over responsibility. Excuses are the language of limitation, spoken fluently by those who have chosen to make peace with mediocrity. They are seductive, comforting, and convenient. They sound reasonable, they feel justified, and they often gain sympathy from others. But excuses are the subtle assassins of destiny. They build walls around your progress and then hand you the paintbrush to decorate those walls with rationalizations. They convince you that your delay is wisdom, that your fear is discernment, and that your procrastination is patience. But the truth is, every excuse you entertain becomes a chain that ties you to yesterday. There is a reason why many people have the same goals every year. There is a reason why resolutions are rarely resolved. It's not because they don't have the potential. It's not because they don't have the time. It's because they have mastered the art of excusing themselves from growth. Excuses allow you to stay in familiar pain rather than face unfamiliar responsibility. They let you rehearse your history instead of rewrite your future. They keep you comfortable with explanations while avoiding execution. But a future that is shaped by excuses will always look like a copy of your past. The power of excuses is that they make you feel like you're doing something when you're doing nothing. You can have endless conversations about your challenges, analyze your weaknesses, quote your traumas, describe your limitations, and yet never take one meaningful step forward. Excuses are deceptive because they mimic intelligence. They are often dressed in logic. They are wrapped in stories that sound profound. But logic that does not lead to action is simply mental entertainment. If all your explanations result in the same stagnation, then your reasoning is not leading you to freedom. It is keeping you hostage. The moment you begin to produce excuses is the moment you stop producing results. You cannot have both. One will cancel the other. And the longer you wait to confront the excuses, the deeper they will root themselves in your identity. You'll begin to believe that your story is your ceiling. You'll start to confuse your starting point with your final destination. You'll begin to see your excuses as facts rather than choices. But excuses are always subconscious. They are choices to prioritize comfort over challenge, fear over faith, emotion over discipline. And until you accept that, you will continue to build a life around defending your limitations instead of defeating them. Excuses don't just stall your future. They shape your character. Every time you excuse a lack of effort, you weaken your sense of accountability. Every time you explain away a bad habit, you reinforce its control. Every time you point fingers at others, you surrender the power to change. And over time, your character bends, your standards lower, your ambition fades. You start avoiding people who confront you. You seek out environments that never challenge you. You surround yourself with those who echo your excuses rather than expose them. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you become a slave to your own story. Some of the most powerful excuses come from pain. You point to what happened. You recite who hurt you. You recall the failures. And because the emotions are real, you think the excuse is valid. But pain is not a permission slip to stop growing. Trauma is not a license to stop transforming. Life will never stop giving you reasons to stay the same. The question is, will you keep using them? Because you cannot outgrow the weak you while still protecting the voice that defends it. At some point, you must decide that the past has taken enough. That every moment spent explaining what happened is another moment lost from building what could be. Your future requires a language of responsibility, not excuses. It demands that you take ownership of your thoughts, your habits, your time, your environment, your choices. Because what you refuse to own, you cannot change. As long as your progress is someone else's fault, it will remain outside your control. The future does not belong to those with the best background. It belongs to those with the clearest vision and the highest accountability. When you stop using your story as a crutch and start using it as a platform, everything changes. When you stop saying, I can't because of what happened, and start saying, I must because of what happened, you shift from being a victim to being a vessel of transformation. Excuses give you temporary relief but permanent regret. They let you off the hook today but hang you with disappointment tomorrow. And the worst part is they don't even ask for permission. They show up automatically. They come to your mind disguised as wisdom. But if you don't check them at the door, they will walk into your destiny and start rearranging the furniture of your life. They will make comfort look noble. They will make fear look rational. They will make indecision look spiritual. And they will kill everything you were meant to become in the process. The future version of you, the one with clarity, focus, strength, and influence, does not speak the language of excuses. It speaks the language of execution. It is fluent in commitment, discipline, sacrifice, and follow through. That version of you does not rehearse reasons. It builds results. It does not ask, why me? It declares. It does not wait for the right time. It decides to make the time right. It does not wait to feel ready. It becomes ready by acting. And that is who you must become if you are serious about living the life that was placed inside you. Excuses are comfortable but deadly. They are easy but expensive. They cost you your time, your power, your integrity, your opportunities, your impact. Every dream you have buried under a list of reasons is not dead. It is simply locked in a prison you created with your own words. But the key is still in your hand. And the moment you decide to speak a new language, the language of ownership, the language of growth, the language of purpose, the locks begin to break. The doors begin to open. The path begins to form. And the weak you begins to dissolve under the weight of a new kind of mindset. This is not about blaming yourself for everything that's gone wrong. It's about refusing to let those wrongs define what comes next. You can acknowledge the pain without surrendering to it. You can honor your story without being imprisoned by it. You can respect your past without reporting to it. But you cannot keep making excuses and expect a future that is different from your past. At some point, the conversation must shift from why I haven't to what I will, from what they did to what I've decided, from what went wrong to what I'm building now. And that shift is where the real power begins. That shift is where the stronger you is born. That shift is where the excuses lose their voice and the future gains its volume. Discipline is the bridge between the you that is and the you that must be. Without that bridge, you will always live with a painful gap between potential and fulfillment. Discipline is not glamorous. It is not loud. It does not seek applause. But it is the quiet architect of every successful life, the invisible structure behind every visible transformation. Most people admire outcomes but avoid the process that created them. They celebrate results but ignore the routines that produced them. What they don't understand is that discipline is not just a behavior. It is a mindset, a commitment, and a way of life that refuses to let desire lead and insists that purpose take the front seat. The truth is, desire alone cannot carry you into destiny. Emotions cannot sustain consistency. Passion is a spark, but it cannot build a fire that lasts. Discipline is the wood you must stack, the fuel you must gather, the fire you must tend to daily. Without discipline, everything remains a fantasy. You talk about what you're going to do, dream about what you want to become, plan and write and post, but your life doesn't move, not because you're not gifted, not because you're not anointed, but because you're not disciplined. The version of you that fulfills your assignment is not the one that feels like doing it. It's the one that does it anyway. Discipline is a decision you make every day, even when the motivation is gone. It is what keeps you aligned when distractions pull at your focus. It is what keeps you moving when your feelings say, stop. It is what keeps your word to yourself when it would be easier to break it. And that's the real issue. Too many people are in covenant with their comfort and divorced from their commitments. They break promises to themselves so often that their own mind stops trusting them. But discipline rebuilds that trust. Discipline tells your inner man, I can count on you to show up even when it's hard. And that's when something powerful starts to happen. Momentum. Momentum is not created by bursts of effort. It is created by daily faithfulness, by showing up in the unseen hours, by grinding when no one claps, by sacrificing when no one notices, by praying when no one is around. Discipline creates a rhythm that makes growth inevitable. And when you keep that rhythm, doors begin to open that consistency alone unlocks. You stop relying on opportunities and start becoming the kind of person opportunities look for. You stop praying for shortcuts and start building capacity. Because the future you're praying for is not just waiting on a miracle. It's waiting on your ability to sustain what you're asking for. And discipline is the preparation ground for that sustainability. The gap between potential and manifestation is not talent, it's structure. Everyone has potential, but not everyone has systems. Everyone has dreams, but not everyone has daily habits. Everyone wants success, but not everyone is willing to embrace the pain of discipline. Because discipline is painful. It is the pain of saying no when your body wants yes, the pain of choosing the long term over the instant, the pain of managing your time when distractions feel like relief. But it is a purposeful pain. It is a holy pain. It is the kind of pain that protects you from the greater pain of regret. Regret is what comes when you know you had the time but didn't use it. Regret is what visits when you had the chance to grow but didn't take it. Regret is the voice of the stronger you, mourning the fact that the current you refused to cross the bridge. And here is the sobering truth. If you do not develop discipline, the stronger version of you will remain an unfulfilled prophecy, a version admired from a distance but never inhabited in reality. You will have the appearance of potential without the substance of performance. You will be celebrated for your charisma, but forgotten for your inconsistency. But if you choose discipline, everything changes. Discipline gives you mastery over your moments. It teaches you that time is not just passing, it is pregnant. Every minute is an opportunity to build. Every hour is a seed that produces harvest. Every day is a chapter in your story. And discipline is the hand that writes that chapter with intention. The future does not belong to the busy. It belongs to the disciplined. Those who structure their lives around their values, who prioritize purpose over pleasure, who wake up with a reason and go to bed with results. Discipline redeems your time. It protects your energy. It maximizes your season. Without it, even the best resources will be wasted. But with it, even little becomes much. Discipline also builds resilience, because when life hits, and it will, motivation will vanish, inspiration will fade, but discipline will keep you moving forward. It is what holds you steady when storms come. It is what keeps you focused when people walk away. It is what drives you when the applause dies down and the crowd disappears. It is the internal engine that does not depend on feelings, opinions, or external validation. And the stronger you, the version of you that can handle promotion, pressure, power, and purpose, is forged in the fire of disciplined living. That version of you does not emerge by accident. It is summoned by structure. If you want to live a life of significance, you must stop looking for motivation and start training for discipline. Discipline is what wakes up before the sun. Discipline is what fasts when others feast. Discipline is what studies when others scroll. Discipline is what creates when others complain. Discipline is what builds legacy while others seek popularity. It is the difference between wishing and winning, between dreaming and doing, between potential and purpose. And every day you ignore discipline is a day you delay destiny. The stronger you is not someone who shows up once in a while with energy. It is someone who shows up every day with excellence. And excellence is not an act. It is a habit. It is the result of countless small decisions that no one sees but God honors. Discipline gives you power over your impulses, clarity over your confusion, structure over your chaos. It is the divine order that makes manifestation possible. Without it, you will sabotage what you've been praying for. With it, you will sustain what others lose. Discipline turns calling into credibility, dreams into deliverables, vision into impact. There will be moments when discipline feels lonely, when it feels like no one understands why you're doing what you're doing, when the world is playing and you're working, when others are relaxing and you're pushing, when people criticize your intensity. But you must remember, discipline is not about them. It is about becoming. It is about the unseen preparation that makes the seen moments powerful. It is about saying yes to the stronger you, even when it costs you the approval of the weaker crowd. Because in the end, it is not the crowd that will carry your calling. It is not the noise that will build your name. It is your consistency, your work, your order, your discipline. That is the bridge. And the only way to cross it is to walk it daily, intentionally, and with unwavering commitment. My friend, hear me and hear me clearly. You were never created to remain at the level you started. You were never designed to dwell in the valley of excuses, fear, comfort, and weakness. The seed of greatness is already planted within you, but that seed will never become a tree if you keep watering your limitations instead of your potential. Life will never promote the version of you that refuses to evolve. The future will never submit to the one who fears discipline. Purpose will never partner with the soul that cuddles comfort. You must rise. You must shift. You must make a decision today, not tomorrow, to outgrow the version of you that is beneath your destiny. You are too anointed to think this small. You are too chosen to settle for survival. You are too filled with divine potential to excuse failure as identity. You are not a mistake struggling through time. You are an eternal idea sent into the earth to solve a problem in your generation. But that solution will never manifest until you decide to mature, to develop, to confront your own inconsistencies, and embrace the divine demand to become. The world is not waiting for another excuse. Heaven is not listening for another reason why you can't. All of creation is groaning for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God, those who know who they are and refuse to stay who they were. The weak you is familiar, but it is not faithful to your calling. It feels safe, but it is toxic to your future. You must bury that version of you, lay it to rest. Mourn it if you must, but do not resurrect it again. The stronger you is not a fantasy. It is your responsibility. It is the version that speaks with authority, walks in vision, governs time, multiplies talent, and leaves legacy. That version does not bow to fear, it breaks barriers. It does not surrender to emotion, it subdues kingdoms. It does not complain about the culture, it creates it. So I challenge you today, as a voice crying out in the wilderness of your potential, force yourself to outgrow the weak you. Train your soul to rise beyond mediocrity. Discipline your mind to think like a king. Govern your emotions like a leader. Speak like a ruler. Walk like a steward. Build like a visionary. Pray like a warrior. Because your assignment demands more. Your legacy demands more. And your God, who breathed into you the power of dominion, is waiting on you to return not just with existence, but with evidence. Now go forth, not with emotion, but with decision. Not with noise, but with clarity. Not with crowds, but with conviction. Because your next level is not a location. It is a version. And it's time to meet the stronger, wiser, disciplined, purpose-driven version of you.